such a thing.
Mothers don't do to their children what you're doing to Gloria, blackening their characters in front of the entire world.
You are unaware of the neglect that has been going on, Consuela. This unfortunate child has been dying, and Gloria has paid no attention to it.
That's ridiculous to hear you talk. You'd think she was little orphan Annie.
How can you say the kid's been neglected? She's never been left alone a day in her life. From the day she was born, she's either been with you or with that crazy nurse or with Gloria.
And aren't you the one to talk about neglect? You never considered it neglect when you left your children scattered all over Europe. When Thelma and Gloria were little, you never went near them for months at a time.
The child will be better off with Gertrude. That is the proven fact. Ask Dr. St. Laurence.
That old croaker would jump through a flaming hoop if Gertrude snapped her fingers and told him to.
Ah, maybe it's vengeance. Is that it, Mama? You never have forgiven Gloria for not letting you live with her anymore.
Years ago.
Into the street she threw me. Her own mama.
Into a very charming, perfectly adequate flat right down the street from her in Paris. All expenses paid is where she threw you, Mama.
Let Gloria withdraw her petition if she doesn't want her shame to be broadcast for all the world to see.
You're just determined to drag her name through the mud, aren't you?
Look who's talking about mud. You and your Ali Khan, that Arab, a colored man.
He's a prince!
Mama, hasn't it occurred to you yet that you might have a lot to lose, too? Are you forgetting that Thelma and Gloria support you to the tune of $500 a month?
I see that this is a threat. It's okay. You can threaten, I don't care. If they can give me my check for this month, I won't need their money anymore.
How are you going to live?
It's no business of yours.
It's obvious how she's going to live. Gertrude, right, Mummy? Gertrude will support you from now on, won't she? In return for you doing her dirty work for her, isn't that right?
My lips are sealed. At least said, soonest mended.
Mama, please, don't go ahead with this awful thing. A child belongs with its mother. Any child, any mother, no matter what. Well, you say you love Gloria. Well, think what this will do to her whole life.
The publicity alone will be horrible for her.
I can never face my God if I don't do this.
Gertrude, I am pleased to see you out of your widow's weeds so soon.
Are you really? I thought you might have wished that my devotion to Harry's memory would have approximated your devotion to Father's.
Hardly, my dear.
Can I get you anything?
Well, a new heart would not be unwelcome. Tell me, what do you hear about? What was it that awful gossip columnist called her after Reggie died? The world's most beautiful widow.
I gather you haven't been reading the newspapers recently.
Heavens, no. I'm ill enough as it is.
I'm afraid Gloria recently overstepped even her own extremely questionable boundaries.
Not another penniless European prince, surely.
No, this time she's seen fit to involve herself in a lurid, much publicized liaison with a married man named Blumenthal. I think it fair to presume the gentleman is of the Hebrew persuasion.
Gertrude, your own life has not been without its indiscretions.
My private life has never been lived for the sake of the newsreel cameras. I have never been the source of scandalized amusement of the masses, nor have I caused a whisper of public embarrassment for the family. It's long since time she was called to account for her responsibility to the Vanderbilt name.
All of that notwithstanding, I've been generous to her in my will. There's plenty of time in the next world for accounting. Plenty of time.
Gertrude says she knew nothing about it. She says the first she heard of it was when I called her.
Oh, no, that's not so. The first she heard of it is when she cooked it up with your mother and her legal eagles, Crocker and Dunnington.
You think so?
I know so. I have my sources. Now, Gertrude is paying Dunnington's fee to represent your old lady. Excuse me, your mother.
What?
Forgive me for saying this, but you've got some mother there.
I agree. But as for Gertrude Whitney, this is the last time I'm going to allow her to treat me in this appalling fashion. She may be one of the richest women in America, and she may be used to getting whatever she wants whenever she wants it, but she is not going to take my child away from me.
Has she created any problems about Gloria having this visit with her?
No, Gloria's coming tomorrow for the rest of the week. But she sure didn't like it, I can tell you that.
You know, Gloria, if I remember correctly, this situation has been going on now for about 2 years.
Has it been that long?
Yes, and it started when you left little Gloria with Gertrude after the tonsillectomy, right? And then you went back to Europe.
My first fatal mistake. Oh, I regret it now. Well, now I want her back with me for good.
Well, clearly, if you'd taken the little girl 2 years ago and kept her for yourself there, right here in New York, and stopped this going back and forth business and to Europe, things would have been hunky-dory for you now. Well, however...
Well, I just slipped into it, I guess. At first, I didn't want to cause any problems in the family because of Alice. She was so ill, and I didn't want to upset her. She's always been so good to me, and then... After a while, little Gloria was just surrounded completely by all these lawyers and doctors who kept telling me to leave her where she was with Gertrude, and how healthy she was, and how good the country air was for her, and how many friends she'd made, and on and on and on like that. I believed them. I trusted them. They all just tricked me is what they did. Even my own mother has turned against me, and she's siding with Gertrude. Reggie's been dead for 9 years, for Pete's sake. And I still have to go begging to my daughter's guardians for what's rightfully mine as far as I'm concerned.
We're going to fix that.
I sure hope so. Oh.
I'm working on it. Meanwhile, Gloria, I want you to stay off boats.
Never in my whole life will I understand the kind of woman this Gloria Vanderbilt is. It's not the child she wants. It's the child's money. Oh, sure. Sure, if little Gloria died, her mother'd cry her crocodile tears. But her millions would be hers. It's just what she wants.
What? The mother don't have enough cabbage of her own?
Without the child, she has nothing. A pauper is what she is without that child.
I never heard of a poor Vanderbilt.
It's a long story, never mind. Little Gloria is a terrifically wealthy little girl. And you know what wealth brings? Greed. That's what it brings. Oh, even from an innocent child, a baby lamb, it would make no difference to them.
To who?
Gloria Vanderbilt and those sisters of hers, that's who. Don't you worry about them. Mrs. Whitney and Mrs. Morgan will take care of them, all right. All you have to worry about is the kidnappers.
Do I have to go, Auntie Ger?
I'm afraid you do, darling. Your mother wants to see you.
I don't want to see her. I'm afraid.
Oh, there's nothing to be afraid about. You'll only be gone a few days. You'll be back by the end of the week.
Well, I'll go if I have to. But I don't want to. I'm not happy with my mother.
Sometimes, Gloria, we have to place duty before our own personal happiness.
You'll stay with me all the time, won't you, Dodo?
Oh, every instant, my sweet lad. Never fear of that.
Did you have a good journey? You please your hair? Because I'm really pleased your hair. I miss you so much. That was really pretty.
Yes, Beasley. Nurse Kieslich wants to take Miss Gloria to Central Park and then perhaps to a museum. And I want you to drive them and stay close by at all times. I've sent that awful bodyguard away. I'm sure you're quite capable of standing whatever guard is necessary over my daughter.
Yes, ma'am. I'll see to it.
Good morning, darling. Come and give Mommy a great big good morning kiss. The day's first kiss is always the best.
What are you doing?
I'm paying all these nasty bills, writing out checks.
How do you do it?
Oh, well, see, you subtract the amount of the check from this number here, and then you write in the balance after that's been deducted here.
I don't like arithmetic.
Neither do I, darling. But you'll find that in life, arithmetic is very important.
Had such an exhausting day in ages, Connie. We looked at simply dozens of houses, but you're going to adore the one I've picked. It's simply smashing and very near Gloria's school. So, okay, Gertrude and all her lawyers and doctors and guardians insist the country living is so healthy for my daughter. Swell, she can have it, but I will provide it.
Here's to country living.
Well, there you are. Wait till you hear the wonderful news I have for you.
Dodo, she's gonna take me away. She's gonna kidnap me. Why does she want to kidnap me?
For the same reason all innocent children are kidnapped, darling, for your money.
Will she kill me if I don't give it to her?
You'll never give it to her. She'll never get your money, darling.
But she'll kill me if I don't give it to her, like all the children in the newspapers and the newsreels.
We'll find a way to stop her from killing you.
I want to go home, Dodo. I want to go back to my girl.
We will, dear. We will.
When?
Soon, darling. Soon.
I want to go now, Dodo. I want to go now.
Shh. Now, come on. Say our prayer. Say our prayer now. Shh. Little flower at this hour. Say it, darling. Say it. Little flower.
Little flower.
At this hour.
At this hour.
Show us thy power.
Show us thy power.
Say it again. Say it again. Little flower. At this hour. Show us thy power.
I have to go to the bathroom.
All right. Hurry up. Be quick.
I've taken possession of the Long Island house immediately, nurse. We'll be moving out the day after tomorrow.
She was promised to go back to Mrs. Whitney on Saturday.
She won't be returning to Mrs. Whitney, nurse. I'd like you to accompany us and stay for a while until we get settled down. But Gloria is old enough now for us to dispense with the services of a nurse, I believe.
I won't be with little Gloria anymore.
A governess will be more appropriate now. Gloria is 10 years old now, after all.
Every day and night of her whole life I've been with her since she was 3 weeks old.
Yes, I appreciate that, nurse. But all good things must come to an end, mustn't they?
Yes.
On your way. Where are you off to today?
To the park, as usual, and then we're going to the hospital and visit Mrs. Whitney's granddaughter, Nancy.
Nancy? In the hospital?
She's having her appendix taken.
Oh, poor thing. Are you going to take that puppy with you, darling? I don't think they'll let you into the hospital with that.
Beasley will hold him for then.
Oh, of course. Well, have a good time. See you later.
Park?
No. Greenwich Village. To Mrs. Whitney's.
And then only a few hours ago, the nurse informed me that Mrs. Vanderbilt fully intends taking Gloria out to a house that she's rented on Long Island. I don't really know how to proceed. That's why I've asked you both to come here. I need your legal advice.
I'm only too glad to be of whatever assistance I can be, Mrs. Whitney. But as the child's guardian, I must, of course, take care against appearing in any way partisan in your dispute with Mrs. Vanderbilt.
Oh, I quite appreciate your position, Mr. Gilchrist. Still, I did think it was important that you be here today. Mr. Dunnington, I want you to tell me what I should do under the circumstances. I don't want to do anything that is not absolutely in accord with Surrogate Foley's judgment. I want you to tell me what I ought to do. I will, my sweetheart. Come on, darling. I will. There's my girl. You see what I mean, Mr. Dunnington?
The child's absolutely terrified by her mother. I wonder why. Do you know Mrs. Whitney?
I have no idea.
I see. Has no one asked her about the reasons for her feelings?
Mr. Dunnington, the child can hardly be expected to be capable of explaining its feelings. After all, it is only a child.
What are you doing, Charles?
I'm trying to find Miss Gloria's wristwatch, madam. They've sent for it.
Her wristwatch? Who sent for it?
Well, Mrs. Whitney. The chauffeur's come for it. Beasley. He's downstairs.
Mrs. Whitney? Beasley! What have you done with Miss Gloria? Where is she? Where is she?
What's all this crying and upset been about, anyway?
Because my mother wants to take me.
Well, that's nothing to cry for.
I hate my mother.
What a thing to say. You don't hate your mother, Gloria. You're just excited. Nobody hates their mother.
Where is Mrs. Whitney?
As I told you on the telephone, the child was brought to me in a completely hysterical condition. There was nothing else to be done in the circumstances.
You had no right to do anything without calling me first. I'm her mother, whether you like it or not. You've gone too far this time, Gertrude.
Where is she? What's the matter?
Darling, you're not helping.
Don't let her come near me! Don't let her kill me!
Gloria, what's the matter with you?
This is not good for the child. You! I'll never forgive you for what you've done. No wonder the child is in this condition. The hole you put her in. The house isn't fit for pigs. And you're a hypocrite. Oh, what I could say. What I'm going to say.
Get out! Get out, you awful person! Get out of this room! No! Out of my sight this instant! You're fired!
I think it would be best to have us alone with the child for a few moments.
You see that I have to fire that woman.
Oh, of course you must. She prevented you from carrying out your intention.
At least she won't be around anymore to help you carry out yours, Gertrude.
We'll see.
You've all twisted Gloria's mind against me. That's what you've done. Well, I don't care how much we
money and influence you've got is not going to be enough to kidnap a child from its mother.
But we had to leave her at Gertrude's because Dr. Craig said she was too upset to be taken away. I didn't believe that.
But Connie said it was probably the best thing to do. Connie, well, I just went along with her. But I want you to get me my child back, Nathan. They're doing terrible things to my baby.
Well, the only way now is a habeas...
What's that?
In which court will discuss Gloria. I prefer not to take that action until Mrs. Whitney's attorney. Now, he's going to be out of town until Monday.
Oh, no. No, I won't wait another minute. I want her back now. God knows what they'll do to her by Monday.
Okay. All right. I'll get the writ today, but I think you should know just how serious a situation this could get to be. I think you should prepare yourself for a very severe reaction. You understand? Oh, yes, just one other thing. I found out just a couple of hours ago you're being followed.
I beg your pardon?
You are under constant surveillance by private detectives who are in the employ of Gertrude Vanderbilt Whitney.
I'm being followed? How do you know that?
I have my sources. The point is, Gloria, that they'll stop at nothing to get the goods on you.
What goods?
You took the words right out of my mouth. Now, listen, Gloria, if this thing goes to court, you're going to be asked a lot of what could be called sensitive questions. And I have to ask you the first one.
What?
Now, keep this in mind, Gloria. I'm your lawyer. I'm not your judge. I have no opinion about your private life, past or present, unless there is something in it that could be detrimental to our case. Unless there was something in it that, if it came up in court and I did not know about it in advance, it could be very embarrassing. Now, you tell me.
There's nothing. Absolutely nothing. Except the ravings of my crazy, vindictive mother.
Okay. Excellent.
Private detectives. I didn't think it was going to be like this.
Mrs. Whitney has asked me to say that she wishes that the document be accepted in her stead by her attorney, Mr. Frank Crocker of the firm of Crocker.
She did, huh? Well, you tell Mrs. Whitney that she is required by law to accept this writ in person herself. And if she doesn't, you can tell her for me I'll be just as happy to plaster the whole front of this house with writs.
If you'll just wait a moment.
Mrs. Gertrude Vanderbilt Whitney?
Yes.
You understand, Gertrude, that if we go into court, the publicity will be...
I quite understand, Frank. Much as I despise airing private matters in public, this insulting effrontery of Gloria's cannot go unchallenged. But she would dare to submit me.
I don't know how she dare go into court when she knows what we know about her.
Of course, we must make every effort, Frank, not to divulge anything of a scandalous nature about Gloria. I will not be party to any
Oh,
of
now,
that.
don't you worry about that, Gertrude. I'll see to that, all right.
Well, Gloria had better watch her step now. All the dirty linen is about to be laundered in front of the entire nation. Heavens to Betsy. What a circus it'll be.
I hope you're doing the right thing, hon.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, we can't always be sure what we're getting into, can we? But when we're getting into it.
Oh, Connie, stop sounding like my older and wiser sister.
Why? I am your older and wiser sister.
Here she comes! Hey, you think justice will prevail, Mr. Vanderbilt? New York Times would like a statement.
Mr. Burton, do you think you have a good chance in court?
Mr. Burton, do you have any comments?
Mr. Vanderbilt,
please, Mr. Tribune, answer. Do you have any chance of getting a child? Give us a statement, please.
Give us a statement here for Mr. Vanderbilt. Mrs. Whitney, the story of Mr. Maher. Gloria, this is a statement. What does Miss Whitney get in the courtroom? Whitney, what do you think your chances are?
Well, it's no surprise she's got herself some of the best lawyers in the country.
Right, so forth.
Well, second best.
You will all rise. Oyez, oyez, oyez. The Honorable Supreme Court of the State of New York, City and County of New York is now in session. The Honorable John Francis Carew presiding.
Be seated. Gentlemen, in regard to allegations of unfitness contained in certain affidavits submitted in this case, may I remind you that there is nothing in the law to warrant the exercise of the powers of parens patriae that would deprive a mother of her child, the custody of her child. Unless the mother was so unfit that constant association of the child with the mother would prevent her from growing up to be a good and useful member of society. Only the most unusual circumstances would warrant the refusal of the custody of a child in favor of any other relative, no matter how unselfish the motives of that relative may be. And only the most compelling evidence of such unusual circumstances would warrant the awarding of the custody of a child to any other person other than the natural mother. That said, you may proceed, gentlemen.
We call Emma Sullivan Keeslake.
Is that a sable she's wearing? It looks like a real sable.
So help me God. Sure is, pal.
What is your occupation?
Nurse.
When did you take charge of the infant, the subject of inquiry in this case?
I took her when she was 3 weeks old.
Father was alive. Did he see the child much?
All the time.
What about Mrs. Vanderbilt?
I seen very little of her.
Do you remember some of the people who were in that Paris house, friends of Mrs. Vanderbilt?
There was Prince Hohenlohe. He was a prince, but he had no money. He was her lover. He was a German.
I move to strike that out.
Strike it out. Oh, and there was her brother, Mr. Morgan. That was his support there. He was supported by the child.
I move to strike that out.
Strike it out.
But Mr. Harry Morgan lived there.
He lived there. He didn't work.
Your Honor, I move to strike out...
The prince didn't work either. Nobody worked. It was all supported by the child's money.
Your Honor, please. Woman, stop. It's not good for a witness to volunteer too much. It shows a partisan spirit. It discounts her testimony severely. Now remember, we have teeth in the front of our mouths, like that, so we can clamp down on our tongues. Proceed.
Let me ask you this, so that we can get it straight in the beginning. What is your feeling toward the child?
I object to that, what her feelings are.
Objection sustained.
May I not show that the person who has charge of the child loves it?
I don't know that it's of the slightest importance in this case whether she loves it or not.
I don't know whether it's important whether she loves it.
Can you tell us something about the books you saw around? Did you notice what kind of books they were?
Yes. They were I saw them. I saw the books. I never seen anything like it. Oh, vile books. Disgusting pictures.
Your Honor, I move to strike that out.
What, disgusting pictures?
Your Honor.
Or pictures of naked men?
Yes, sir.
I move
yes,
to
sir.
strike that
the books
out,
would be
Your Honor.
lying around open. He'd drop them down there, Prince Hohenlohe. He'd leave them there after he'd been reading them to her.
Now, Miss Kieslich, to your knowledge, did Mrs. Vanderbilt ever take the child to Sunday school?
Never. Never. Never said a prayer with the child. The child said her prayers with me. I taught her my prayers.
I believe that you are a Catholic, are you?
Yes, I am.
Now, to your knowledge, did Mrs. Vanderbilt ever go to Mass?
Never, to my knowledge. Never in my time.
Do you want this child to be reconciled with its mother?
What do you mean? To love its mother?
Yes.
Anyone who would love her, yes. And love all, and love God first, and be honest, and good living, and clean, and lead a clean life. I want her to have a clean life. I pray to God to give it to her. And not have her name dragged in and known like many others.
Didn't Mrs. Whitney know before you came to this courtroom that you were going to endeavor to destroy every vestige of the good reputation and character that Mrs. Vanderbilt had?
No! She has no good name, nor her sisters either.
Nobody's safe with this woman. Yes, Kieslich, this letter has already been marked for identification. Do you recognize the handwriting?
Yes.
This letter was supposedly written by little Gloria to her mother in April of, Here, take it, it won't bite you.
Just don't touch me.
I have no desire to touch you. I can assure you. Here. I suggest that that letter never originated, as we've been asked to believe, in the minds of an innocent 9-year-old girl. I suggest that those words were dictated to her by another person, an adult person.
No!
Objection.
No! We're not all liars. We're not your sort. We're not your kind.
Column, October 2nd, 1934. Head. Vanderbilt boudoir secrets bared. Servant in sables. Peeped on prince. Paragraph. Yesterday, at the behest of Mrs. Harry Payne Whitney, a servant in sables crept up society's back stairs to the witness stand to tell a shocking tale, painting her former employer as a lazy, loose, erotic woman addicted to books and pictures treating of sadism and other forms of abnormal sexual behavior. For 5 hours, Mrs. Gloria Morgan Vanderbilt listened to a tight-lipped nurse denounce her with virtuous relish as a cocktail-crazed dancing mother, a devotee of sex erotics, and the mistress of a German prince.
Oh, my glorious Gloria. It was a blistering tale no skin lotion could soothe.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Won't you be seated? My only thought since little Gloria came to live with me and throughout the court proceedings has been for the child's welfare.
She's always saying she's only interested in my daughter's welfare. Is it in little Gloria's welfare that she's being brought up with hatred for the one person she should love most in the whole world, her own mother?
It was always my hope and desire to bring the child and her mother closer together. This case is not of my making.
She's been behind this whole movement to rob me of my child. If this case wasn't her doing, as she claims, then why were her attorneys trying to find witnesses to testify against me as long ago as last June?
My most fervent wish is that this case could be put out of the public mind for the sake of the child.
As for my supposedly being unfit because I was away from my child too much, what about Gertrude and her children? They grew up with nannies and nurses, not their mother. And everybody knows that. If that's the reason I'm supposed to be unfit, then she's no more fit than I am.
It seems to me that the issue has become, sadly enough, more one of a mother's personal behavior, shall we say.
But of course, I have very little money, and Gertrude Whitney has many, many millions. And $80 million couldn't possibly be wrong, could it?
Money has never been a primary issue in this regrettable case.
We call Maria Caio. And when were you employed by Mrs. Vanderbilt for the first time, Miss Caio?
For the first time in 1929 in Paris.
And in what capacity were you employed?
As personal maid.
Will you tell us something about what you remember as to the daily habits of Mrs. Vanderbilt? When did she get up?
Oh, Mrs. Vanderbilt got up at around 1 o'clock, sometimes 2, sometimes 3, sometimes 4, and sometimes she studied bed all day.
Did you notice anything about the kind of books there were around the house?
Yes.
Were they books with pictures in them?
Yes.
What kind of books were they?
They were very dirty books.
What kind of pictures were they? You say they were dirty books.
Well, they had pictures that we're not allowed to look at. Is that what you mean? Sure.
But I am trying to find out now whether they were pictures of one sex or both sexes or what.
What difference would it make what sex they were?
Supposing they were homosexual, Your Honor.
It wouldn't make any difference whether they were homosexual or bisexual or unisexual or trisexual.
All right.
They'd be just as dirty if they were homosexual or unisexual or bisexual or trisexual or...
Yeah, I will withdraw the question.
Were you with Mrs. Vanderbilt when she went down to the Riviera in 1932 in Cannes?
Yes.
Where did she live?
At the Miramar Hotel.
And she lived there for how many weeks or months?
2 months.
Did she live alone?
No, I think she was living with her friend, Lady Milford Haven.
And this friend, Lady Milford Haven, appeared to be a decent, fine, lovely person.
Yes.
And Mrs. Vanderbilt was with her at the hotel.
Yes.
Did you see any impropriety at that hotel during the 2 months at the Miramar Hotel?
I do not understand.
During those 2 months, did Mrs. Vanderbilt get drunk?
No, I did not see her drunk.
Did she run around with anyone?
Yes.
Who?
A friend, Lady Milford Haven.
No, you said that. Were there some men or gentlemen?
No, I always saw Mrs. Vanderbilt coming out of the Miramar Hotel with her friend, Lady Milford Haven.
So you did not see any improper conduct during the entire 2 months, isn't that right?
Well, I remember something that seems to me very funny.
Tell us, if you can, what thing you saw.
Well, one day Mrs. Vanderbilt called me for breakfast. Like she do, she always called me for breakfast.
She called you for breakfast.
Yes. So I served breakfast, and I took her things up to my room for pressing them. And a few minutes afterwards, I came back into Mrs. Vanderbilt's room to put the clothes into the closet. When I came into the room, I saw Mrs. Vanderbilt lying on her bed, reading paper. And besides the bed was Lady Milford Haven with her arm around Mrs. Vanderbilt's neck. Lady Milford Haven's arm was around Mrs. Vanderbilt's neck, and she was kissing her like a lover.
parties in this case. Court is adjourned.
Why did I ask that last question? Why? That is first-year law school. You never ask a question unless you have the answer to it. And Gloria, why didn't you tell me that she was your special friend?
I told you about our friendship.
Oh, sweetheart, please. Please, now. There are friendships, and then there are friendships.
It's all so utterly false. It's a pack of malicious lies.
Gloria, now please, if you have anything more to tell me, for Pete's sake, just tell me. Now, please.
No, there's nothing.
Now, what about the books? You did not tell me about the books. What about those books?
Oh, who cares about the books? What I do in the privacy of my own home is nobody's business.
No, hon. It used to be nobody's business.
God bless you, Mrs. Vanderbilt. We're with you all the way. Praying for you. Child, and mother. God bless you,
I've studied the situation over the weekend, and I've come to the conclusion that so much scandalous gossip is being let loose from this courtroom that it might embarrass the child's future. Therefore, I have determined to hold the future sessions of this trial in private. No one will be allowed in this room during the taking of testimony except those people vouchsafed for by counsel. In order to accommodate the members of the press, I am prepared to provide them with my personal summaries of the testimony. I will meet with the reporters from the evening papers at 1 p.m. and the reporters from the morning papers at 4 p.m.
Is all this legal?
Well, barring the press and the public, yes, the Civil Practices Act covers them, but the personal summary of the testimony, I don't know. It smells kind of fishy to me.
And why was it you, and not your daughter, who engaged the nurse for the infant, Mrs. Morgan?
My daughter didn't show any desires or any interest to choose the nurse.
And the mother, what contribution did she make toward the care of the child?
It is not my daughter's fault, but she has not been born with a maternal instinct. She was indifferent to the child. She had nothing to do with the child.
Mrs. Morgan, will you search back in your memory and tell us when you commenced to say anything to your daughter by way of protest about the life that your daughter was living or about the care of the child?
What?
Did you complain to your daughter about her conduct?
Oh, during the last 6 years, I've been all the time telling her that she must settle down and love her own country better than she did. To live in this country and to take an interest in the things of our country and to drop the European entanglements and the European titles and the desires for a life of pleasure that you can get on the other side. And to be more domestic, and to do things like that. I love my daughter. It's for my baby's sake that I'm doing this, Your Honor. It's a sacrifice of my life that I am making. I am going to remain alone in this world, without anybody. If she had committed murder, I would have taken her on my own shoulders for her. Except for the baby. Not if she had murdered the baby.
Mommy.
But I did not know that I would be called to go through this Calvary on earth that I am going through? How did it come? Do this?
Court is adjourned until 10 a.m. Monday morning. Have a nice weekend.
Gloria, guess who's coming to see you this morning? I'm afraid she's a bit upset.
Where is she?
In her room.
Is Kieslich with her?
No, I sent her away for the day.
Good.
My grandson's nurse is with her, Miss Walsh. Perhaps it would be better not to see her just now, Gloria.
We're here to see the child, and see her we will.
Gloria? Darling, it's Mommy.
I don't want to see you! I don't! Don't kill me! Don't kill me! Don't kill me!
Nurse! Nurse, you must open this door. We're here to see this little girl. This is a court order.
I know it is, but Gloria won't give me the key.
Why did you let her have it?
I didn't. She took it.
Well, take it back, for goodness sakes.
Now, Gloria, we must stop this immediately. Give me that key. Do you hear me? Give it here. Hand it over. Gloria. Oh, Gloria.
Gloria! This is Aunt Thelma. Open the door this instant.
I won't! I won't!
She's thrown the key in the fire.
She what?
I don't want to see you! I hate you! I want to be gone! I want to be gone!
Gloria?
Thank you, George.
What's the matter, darling? You're not frightened of Aunt Thelma, are you?
Yes?
Why? I haven't done anything to you.
No.
Well, then, come on. Give me a kiss. Don't act like a little child.
You know, your mother's in there crying. You've made her very unhappy. Won't you go and tell her you're sorry and give her a kiss?
No.
Look here, Gloria. Do you realize how much you're hurting your mummy? You don't really want to hurt her, do you? Well, do you?
No.
Well, all right, then. Go and tell her you're sorry for behaving like such a silly little girl. You're grown up now. You can't behave this way.
someone here to see you. Come to me, darling. Come give me a hug and kiss. I have a Mickey Mouse game for you in the car. We can play it together. Okay?
Hello. Oh, yes, put her on. Hello, Julia. How are you, honey? Why are you calling me with bad news, Julia? I don't want any bad news. Yes, I'm sitting down. What? You sure? Julia, they can't do that. That's against the law. Well, who leaked it? No, Julia, really, honest to God, you don't know who did it? Okay, all right. Thanks again, honey. Goodbye. That was Julia McCarthy from the news. Somebody leaked the butler's testimony. It's going to be in the midnight edition.
That's contempt of court, Nathan.
Oh, just what I need, a lawyer.
Concerning Mrs. Vanderbilt's taste in literature, Zalg admitted that he looked at a book of erotic drawings of unclothed nuns, as many as he could stand, which showed women in unconventional positions. The butler testified reluctantly.
Now, someone who was in this courtroom while the butler was on the witness stand gave a very accurate story of his testimony to the newspapers. Somebody has betrayed my confidence. Now, if it were not for the fact that I don't want to embarrass this trial at this moment, I most certainly would ascertain the culprit.
If there is anything we can do in the way of an investigation, I will be glad to cooperate, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I have already spoken to the managing editor of the Daily News, Mr. Frank House, and strenuously requested that both sides of the story be written. Now, Maher requested your previous ruling as to secrecy be...
The ruling stands. These proceedings will continue closed to the press and to the public.
And when I went into the room, the child appeared preoccupied and discouraged emotionally. I asked her what had happened. She said that her mother had wanted to keep her, and she, the child, didn't want to stay. I asked her why she didn't want to stay.
And what did she reply to that, Dr. St. Lawrence?
She said, because I hate my mother. I asked her why on earth she should feel that way towards her mother. She said, because I'm afraid of her.
Did you say anything to her at that time, Doctor?
I told her, don't take life so seriously.
And you say that after only 6 days of treatment by you, the condition of the child improved?
Most certainly.
Dreams are better, you say? The terrors are gone?
Dreams better, terror's gone.
And all this in 6 days? Is that true, Doctor?
I produced a marvelous change. A beautiful result, a happy child. I think it's wonderful.
Here in the greatest metropolis of the world, the city of the purple-robed and pauper-clad, we find this bitterest of family vendettas. And for what? The custody of a little golden girl who is too young to understand what all the mudslinging means. Mrs. Vanderbilt and her brothers and sisters are fighting mad. Family skeletons will rattle when the new celebrated legal battle resumes operation this morning in the Supreme Court. If such a tale were staged in a Broadway theater or pictured on the screen, the audience would shout, "Impossible."
The place at Westbury has been in my husband's family for a great many years. My children were brought up there, and after they married, I built them houses on the place, near, so that we all live in a small community. And my children and my grandchildren are there. It's a little community of children.
Except one children too many.
Go on, get back there. Out! Out, you hit. Go on, go on. Get back there. Go on, get back. Get back. is your deadline. There. Anybody who comes any closer to my courtroom than that will be held in contempt of court. In contempt. Now, where were we?
You told His Honor that you maintained studios in New York and in Old Westbury, Long Island.
Yes.
You have models?
Yes.
Now, in your work, you design in the nude, don't you?
I presume you mean my models are in the nude, not I.
That's what I mean.
Yes.
Both male and female.
Yes.
Totally nude.
Yes.
Breasts of women exposed.
Yes, certainly.
Now, has the child, Gloria Vanderbilt, been to your museum, the Whitney Museum?
Yes, once or twice.
Where the pictures are exposed and the statuary is exposed.
Yes.
And some of it is yours.
Yes.
At this point, Your Honor, I will offer in evidence a partial list of certain articles of art now in view at the Whitney Museum of American Art. A mural painting of a woman wearing a very short black slip and no panties and black silk stockings and black shoes. The lack of panties and the short slip leave the thighs and the underparts exposed entirely. A man's torso showing the genitalia exposed in a very pronounced manner. A nude figure of a woman leaning on her hands in a sitting position with the breasts highly developed, legs slightly raised apart. Sketch of a woman who has gone to the roof to hang wet wash, being embraced in a corner by a much younger man, while a small child sits at one side playing with clothespins and clothes basket, giving the impression of a married woman cheating in front of her child. Entitled, Love on the Roof. Would you say to His Honor that this paper describes accurately the paintings and figures?
In a crude manner, yes. Incidentally, John Sloane's Love on the Roof is an etching, not a sketch.
I stand corrected. My artistic education has been badly neglected, no doubt.
I shouldn't be surprised.
I offer this in evidence.
I object to it as immaterial.
Of course, the situation is very different from having a lot of dirty pictures thrown around the house.
And those figures were absolutely naked, were they not, when you sculpted them?
I used women models when they were absolutely nude.
How about the men?
Not completely in the nude.
What do you mean, not completely?
A fig leaf, or something analogous to a fig leaf.
But in the case of the women were absolutely stark naked.
Yes.
Now, are there any figures there, those that you sculpted yourself, that are without the presence of a fig leaf?
Yes.
When you completed the designing, you tore off the fig leaf, is that it?
On the statue, I did. On the model, I did not. I should like to say that the paintings and sculptures in the Whitney Museum mentioned earlier, and many others like them, are works of art and are recognized as such. They are no different than similar works of art in the Louvre or the Metropolitan Museum. The Whitney Museum is a recognized museum of art. It's open to the public, free. No complaint has ever been made about any work of art contained in it. I always hoped that little Gloria and her mother could have a closer relationship. I said everything I could to arouse in this child an affection for her mother in accordance with that idea, that they should have a closer relationship.
Now, wasn't the child's only apprehension was that her mother was going to take her out to Long Island to live with her?
Certainly not. When the child showed hysterics and started to shriek and scream when her mother came into the room, that was not just because she didn't want to go out and live with her in the country. When the child said, "If I have to go back, I'd rather die," that is not simply a fear of going back.
Are you through?
No, I'm not. If the child says, "I'm afraid of my mother, I don't want to go back with her, I don't want to be with her," That signifies something far beyond the fact that she doesn't want to go and live in the country. The fact is the child was afraid for her life.
Does she have to testify?
They're insisting on it, Gloria.
It's perfectly cruel. I don't know how even Gertrude can do this to her.
Well, we've got one break at least. She won't have to appear in the courtroom. Carew will take her testimony in his chambers, and only Smythe and I will be there.
I don't know how they can do this to her.
Just have to face it, Gloria. I hate to say this, but she's their star witness.
Don't you think you could learn to love your mother?
No, I never want to go back to her. Do I have to?
I would think you'd want to.
No, she was never nice to me.
Oh? How was she not nice to you, little girl?
Oh. Once I had a little dog. Very much. And she took him away from me.
Maybe the dog had fleas.
No, he didn't.
But didn't you like your mother before you went out to live in the country?
No, I didn't.
But you sent her all these nice little postal cards here. All these nice little pictures of animals and flowers and all these X's and O's.
Well, I had to, because I was afraid of her.
Afraid? Of what?
I don't know. I'm just afraid of her.
You know any prayers?
Yes.
Let's hear you say some prayers.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee, blessed art thou.
Well, talk a little slower.
I can't say it unless I say it fast. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee, blessed art thou. Blessed art thou. I say that every night. It's awfully funny. I can't remember it.
Do you say the Our Father?
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. And I know this one. This is a short one. When you want something to happen, you say, Little flower, at this hour, show me thy power. Dodo taught me that.
Can you say the Apostles' Creed?
I used to know that, but I forget. Can I go now?
Now, how about the act of contrition? You know, when you say you're sorry for your sins.
No.
This child's religious education has obviously been badly neglected.
Now, in this photograph with your mother, you're smiling. I mean, you're smiling with your mother. Is that right?
Yes, because the photographer said to smile.
And at that time, you hated your mother?
Yes.
Girlie, how old were you when you began to hate your mummy?
As soon as I could understand things. As soon as Dodo and Nanny explained things to me.
Little Gloria wanted understood that she doesn't dislike her mother. It's just that she hasn't seen very much of her.
Does she claim that her mother neglected her?
She doesn't seem to recall anything about that.
Would you say little Gloria is an unusually bright child?
Oh, I know nothing about children.
You ought to. You have 5 of your own.
They are their mother's concern.
Yes, we all had the strictest of Catholic educations. When the child went to bed, she used to cross herself and say Hail Mary in French.
I was talking to her yesterday, and she made no suggestion that she knew anything whatever about making the sign of the cross. I watched her, and I gave her every opportunity. Now, if there's one thing that is characteristic of the Catholic above all others, it is the making of the sign of the cross. Now, you go over to the waterfront, and you see a fellow about to jump in the water, he'll make the sign of the cross before he jumps in, if he's a Catholic. I've seen Jewish boys make the sign of the cross when I jumped in. There was a gang of us in the neighborhood, and we used to go swimming every day after school, weather permitting. The East River, that was. I don't know whether little boys still go swimming in there after school, but if they do, and they're Catholics, you can bet your bottom dollar that they make the sign of the cross. At least I hope they do. Be a sad state of affairs if things have come to such a pass that religion no longer plays a part in the daily play of little boys. Sad state of affairs. I remember one little fella, must have been, 8 or 9 at the time, I suppose. A little bit of a chap.
In a resolution introduced before the Committee of Courts and Practices of the Federal Bar Association, lawyers today denounced Supreme Court Justice John F. Carew for barring the public and press.
Not to mention lying to the reporters about what's really going on in court.
With grievous damage already inflicted on the plaintiff, who is asserting the most natural of rights with every sympathy and presumption in her favor, the court saw fit to clamp the lid of secrecy on all further evidence. The plaintiff protested, her counsel protested, and yet the court has seen fit to brush aside these fundamental considerations of justice. The judge's course in this matter is wrong. He has obviously made a mistake, and a grievous one. This judge is incomprehensible. Wonderful.
Nathan says Carew's gone round the bend.
You know, you're not looking too good, hon. You've lost a lot of weight since this trial began.
11 pounds in 5 weeks. Well, beats dieting.
Mrs. Vanderbilt, will you tell us briefly where you spent your early life up to the time that you married Mr. Vanderbilt?
I was born in Lucerne, Switzerland, in 1905. I stayed in Europe until 1916. In 1916, my sister Thelma and I came to America for 6 months. In 1917, I spent 9 months in America and the rest in Europe. In 1918, I spent 9 months in the United States and went back to Europe. In 1920, I went to Brussels, where my father and mother were then living. In 1921, I visited in America until Thelma's marriage. In June 1922, I went to Brussels. In September 1922, I came back to America. In March 1923, I married Mr. Vanderbilt. I was 18.
Please tell us where you were educated and the name of the school or schools.
There were so many. I was in school in Switzerland. I was in school in Spain. I was in school in Germany. I was in school in Switzerland again, and then I went again to France.
And within a period of 4 years, you attended school in 4 different countries, conducted in 4 different languages.
Yes, I think so. I guess so. It's very complicated. I never in my life touched my daughter in anger. Except for once. One time, when she asked me for some money. In those days, she was a very little bit of a thing. She used to open my bag and look through it. And there was some loose change. And I said, Gloria, you can't have that because it hasn't been washed. The money. I said, I'll give it back to you after it's been washed. And she said, oh, well, I'll go and ask Nanny. So off she went to ask her grandmother. So I went after her, and I said, Gloria, Mommy says you can't have any money that hasn't been washed. And I took her by the shoulders, and I turned her around this way. I didn't push her, and I didn't ill-treat her. I just turned her around and said, off with you to nurse. So she started crying because she couldn't have the money before it was washed.
Then when I came in, Mrs. Vanderbilt was in bed reading a paper, and there was Lady Milford Haven beside the bed with her arm around Mrs. Vanderbilt's neck. Lady Milford's arm around Mrs. Vanderbilt's neck, and she was kissing her like a lover.
Mrs. Vanderbilt, did any such occurrence ever take place?
It certainly did not.
Were you ever guilty of such an act or similar act with any woman, any time, at any place?
No, never.
When His Honor undertook the difficult task of talking to your daughter, she said that she hardly saw anything of you and that you weren't nice to her. Is that an accurate statement?
That is not an accurate
No,
statement.
although she written lots of letters. She said she didn't love you, but only wrote them because she was afraid of you. Now, did you ever see or notice any fear on the child's part?
Never.
Had any doctor who had seen her during all the years that you had her, did any doctor tell you that upon examination he discovered that the child had an apprehension or fear of you?
No, never. No, because it did not exist.
Gloria.
Court is adjourned till 10 a.m. tomorrow morning.
And it's perfectly obvious to anyone with half an eye that Mrs. Gloria Morgan Vanderbilt, attended constantly by a nurse and physician, is on the brink of a complete nervous breakdown. She has been questioned and cross-questioned about little thoughtless actions throughout her widowhood. She has been vilified by the testimony of discharged servants. And now at the end, smiling bravely, she faces the final issue. Will her child be restored to her? In the meantime, the little girl who is the bone of contention remains with her aunt at her palatial Westbury estate. A member of the household stated the child did not seem aware of the recent proceedings, or if she was, she did not appear interested. While her fate is being decided by others, the little girl plays with her toys and puppies, her cheeks glowing with autumn wind and her eyes dancing.
Dr. St. Lawrence told you to let the child stay in America during the whole summer of 1932 while you went to England or Paris.
Are you trying to make my child out as critically ill? She was not. But she wasn't quite well enough to travel right after the operation. And anyway, I was sailing back as soon as I got my house closed in Paris.
Oh, then you came back.
Then I came back. I went back again in June. I was there July and part of August in France.
And now you're going back to 1932.
That's what you asked me. Don't get me mixed up. It's bad enough to keep my own mind straight without keeping yours.
You are not responsible for my mind, Mrs. Vanderbilt.
Thank God for that.
Yes, thank God for that. I'm trying to find out how responsible you were for your child.
You're not trying to make me out crazy by any chance, are you?
Not exactly, no.
I'm glad to hear it.
Dear Nene, I received your letter and your cable. I am writing this letter in bed to you as I have a bad throat. I hope that you will excuse my letter. Dear Nene, Tony's mother is putting me into another room every week.
Who's Tony's mother?
Oh, Mrs. Vanderbilt's sister, Your Honor, Lady Finesse. My mother is so bad to me, I wish that I could run away to New York to you. I am a very unlucky girl. Love from Gloria. This is the handwriting of your child, is it not?
It may be the handwriting of my child. But it was never written by a child of that age, I imagine freely. Her hand was held, or the letters were dictated to her by someone. I am not going to acknowledge that my child wrote that letter willingly.
The question is...
I don't care what the question is, that's my answer.
Does it occur to you that the letters complaining about you were written by a child who might be afraid of you?
Her letters to me didn't show that.
Well, as she said in her own testimony, the affectionate letters to you were written because she had to write them.
If she was forced to write letters of affection to me, then she might have been forced to write letters against me.
Can you imagine any motive your mother can have, except the welfare of the child, to say anything against you?
Yes, I can, I'm sorry to say. Money.
Why should money come into any motive on the part of your mother?
You'd better ask Mrs. Whitney that. That's where my mother's getting her money from now.
Are you charging that Mrs. Whitney has been giving money to your mother?
Yes.
But can you imagine any motive your mother can have had prior to the time that Mrs. Whitney came into this matter in 1932?
It's very hard for me to say this. But I must say it against my mother since you're forcing me to. She wants the guardianship of the child. so as she can get the money from Gloria's trust fund.
Do you really mean that?
I certainly do.
Can you tell this court any motive Mrs. Whitney can have, except the welfare of her brother's child?
I don't know what Mrs. Whitney's motives are. I've never known what Mrs. Whitney's motives are.
Mrs. Vanderbilt, do you believe that leaving your child for extended periods of time, as has been established in this court, do you believe that that is taking care of your child?
I think it's just as much taking care of my child as when Mrs. Whitney is never around.
How does that compare with your absences time and again, with the child lying sick?
Don't give me that, my child lying sick.
Do you remember being told that before this court, the child was asked would she go back to her mother, and that she shrank back and tears came out of her eyes? And she said, "I will not go. I am afraid of my mother."
Yes. Yes, I remember. What are you trying to do? Break my heart?
Witness is excused.
Not really.
That's all, Your Honor.
That's all, Your Honor. We rest.
He rests.
We rest.
Both sides rest. Let's have a short recess.
Coming back in now, Nathan.
The issue here is the best interest of the child. I cannot approve of the conduct of the mother in relation to the child. Nevertheless, the mother is a young woman, and I don't think that the child should altogether be taken from this woman. I would be glad if she would have the opportunity, in the first place, to win back the child's confidence and affection. And in the second place, to show that her future conduct will not be as her past conduct has been. I think she should have such access to the child as will not interfere with the present life of the child, but will give her an opportunity to win the child back and to take care of it properly in the future. I intend, in some degree now, to preserve for some time the life that the child has now.
As I construe Your Honor's words, it simply means that she is deprived of the child. That's my construction of it.
Well, to some extent, she certainly is. But even if she were 1,000 times more guilty than she ever has been, I still have enough of the human in me to want to give her an opportunity for the future. We'll have another little talk, you and I, and Mr. Smythe. You may transcribe from your notes this statement. Mr. Justice Carew has decided that the child, Gloria Vanderbilt, will not have for the future the life that it had from the death of its father until June 1932.
But what does the statement mean, Your Honor?
Every word means exactly what it says, nothing more.
Look, what kind of life is that kid to lead?
Well, that will have to be worked out. The mother needs a guardian almost as much as the child does. My mind is still open on the settlement. When my final decision is filed, it will be a work of supreme genius and will be recognized as such.
When will the decision be filed, Judge?
It will take the usual course. Dominus vobiscum.
And it is further considered, ordered, found, judged, and decreed that the said writ of habeas corpus be finally disposed of as follows. That Mrs. Gertrude Vanderbilt Whitney is granted custody of said infant and shall provide for her a governess of the Roman Catholic faith who shall reside with her, teach her the catechism of the Roman Catholic faith.
Nathan, she can read at any time. I think we've got the gist, okay.
Do I see her at all?
Beginning next month, you have her from 10 o'clock Saturday morning until sundown on Sunday. You have her during the month of July. You have her from 10 o'clock until 6 o'clock on Christmas Day. At least we got rid of the nurse. Kieslich has her walking papers. The judge was agreeable to that. I put everything I had into this case.
Gloria. Happy at last.
And so the matter of Vanderbilt is done. The drama that has so enthralled the nation for these many months is ended. But what really has been accomplished by all this scandalous hue and cry of charge and countercharge? Just this, that Justice John Francis Carew, the socialite Solomon, has wielded his sword of dubious justice and has severed, perhaps forever, what fragile bonds still remain between little Gloria and her mother. He has taken the child from her mother and awarded it to the woman whom the mother probably most detests in the world. Can either of these women refrain from trying to influence the child's mind against the other? I think not. And what will that do to the child? Gertrude Vanderbilt Whitney may have won the battle, but it is surely a Pyrrhic victory, and its most tragic casualty is certainly the poor little rich girl herself, Gloria Laura Vanderbilt. That no matter what disposition Your Honor makes as to these charges, that the day will come when this issue must be tried out between this child and her mother.
Three years after the trial, Justice John Francis Carew was discovered to be a patient at the Neuropsychiatric Hospital in Hartford, Connecticut, an institution specializing in the treatment of alcoholism and nervous breakdowns. Nathan Birkin unsuccessfully pursued the case to the United States Supreme Court. In 1936, he died of a heart attack, never having fully recovered from his failure to vindicate Gloria Morgan Vanderbilt. 11 years after the trial, little Gloria, now 21 years old, brought Nurse Kieslich to live with her in New York City, providing a permanent annual income. In 1942, Gertrude Vanderbilt Whitney died at 67 years of age, leaving an estate in excess of $80 million. Her funeral was attended by 1,200 mourners. Laura Kilpatrick Morgan died in 1956 at age 79. Only her 2 daughters, Gloria and Thelma, and 1 friend attended the funeral. In 1964, Gloria Morgan Vanderbilt died at the age of 60, her sister Thelma at her bedside. She had never remarried. Her estrangement from her daughter persisted throughout her life, with only occasional periods of strained reconciliation. 42 years after the trial, when asked what of all her possessions she most valued, little Gloria replied, "The one thing I treasure most is a small round portrait of my mother and me when I was an infant."